nuggets from here. So if you have any questions, please let us know down in the comments below. But let's go ahead and get started. So a lot of people have been asking questions about should they go. Really good question, especially when you're an athlete and you've put so much time and effort into your craft as an athlete. So it's a big decision. It's a tough decision. Should you go to a school that is known because of its sports program, or should you go to a school because it's known due to the first thing we'll talk about is Powerhouse Sports and the pros for going to a Powerhouse Sports program. One of the pros, obviously, as an athlete, with it being a Powerhouse Sports program, is the exposure. If you go to one of these large schools, you're going to have the opportunity to play on a huge platform, and that's typically television. Your games are going to be nationally televised. You're going to be playing against other top sports programs, and these are schools, colleges such as USC, Ohio State, University of Miami, Penn State, just to name a few. There are a lot of big powerhouse programs out there. And so when you go to a school like that, it's just really going to create a lot of opportunities from you on the sports side because of the national exposure that you're going to get from playing on such a huge platform. Just think, if you're making big plays, ESPN is going to have your highlights. It's going to be plastered all over television. And then there's going to be a viral these large networks. So that's a huge pro for going to a Powerhouse Sports School. It's really going to set yourself up to play at a level where a lot of people are going to see and know who you are. So a lot of times as athletes, we do what we do because we do enjoy that glory that you get as an athlete. And I think that the type of glory that you get at a Powerhouse Sports Pro television has gotten huge, especially in the past 5 to 10 years. So many people are tuning in and watching, millions and millions of people. So it's an amazing and huge platform to play on. In addition to that, the next pro is going to be the environment, the sports environment at the school that you're at, right? Because of the brand and the history of a school being as big as it is, the environment of the school is just going to be so much more energetic. So you're going to have a lot of people going to your games. It's going to be a phenomenal environment to be in because there's going to be a ton of school spirit. Because of that, people wearing the paraphernalia and the brand everywhere and really excited about it. And plus, with that comes the excitement that the alumni are going to have. It's just going to create this energy because of the excitement and the affinity that people have for their school. Schools like Ohio State, USC, these types of schools, like their alumni base is huge, and even people that didn't go to the school are fans and are really excited and root for these universities. Alabama is another one. So when you go, just fan following, and that's a really exciting and fun environment to be in. The third pro to that is if you have aspirations to play beyond the collegiate level, you're going to have more opportunities, just realistically speaking, people at the professional level, and because of that, it's just easier for scouts and so forth to basically take a chance on you. And it's kind of like people go with what they know, and when you go to a school like that, they'll say, hey, this school has put out this many draft prospects in a certain year. So this year, because he played at this program, we know that he can play at a certain level. So we're more willing to take a chance on this prospect. So at these huge powerhouse programs, you definitely do increase your chances playing at the professional level if you so desire. So those are the three main pros, to playing at a powerhouse school. The national exposure, the environment that it puts you in with the fan base, and then your sports opportunities to play professionally thereafter. Now let's talk about the pros for going to a powerhouse academic school. So these are schools that are like in the Ivy League, so your Harvards, your University of Pennsylvania's, your Cornells, your Browns, your Georgetowns. There's a lot more, but those are just a background. There are several pros to go into those types of schools as well, even if you are a top-notch athlete. And the pros are very similar to the pros for going to a Powerhouse Sports school, but it's just tilted a little bit more to the academics. So one of the pros for going to a powerhouse at these universities, people know how hard it is to get into these schools. Some of these schools have less than a 5% acceptance rate. And because of that, people know that you have to work really, really hard to get into these schools, and there's a certain level of prestige and notoriety that goes with getting accepted. Not to say that the people that go to these schools are better than anybody, but it's hard to get. There's a certain excitement and esteem that comes with it once you actually get it, and that certainly exists at these powerhouse academic schools. So there's a certain level of prestige that not only exists at the school itself, but also exists from it exists from those that are outside of the school environment, because other people know how hard it is to get into these. It is the ability to get long-term opportunities if sports is not your long-term goal. So what I mean by that is these schools also have extremely strong alumni, and that stems from the fact that people, once again, know how hard it is to get into these schools, and so there's a certain brotherhood or sisterhood that exists once you get into these university schools. There's a certain level of aptitude that you have, and discipline and dedication and persistence to be able to go to one of these schools, survive, and graduate. So because of that, you have a very strong alumni network, one that you can reach out to and connect with thereafter. That's an alum, someone that can coach you through your experience while you're there. And that is a huge pro, because a lot of times when we're at the collegiate level, we're fresh out of our homes, we're young, 18, 19 years old, and so a lot of times someone that really is looking out for your success is very beneficial to have when you're in such an academically rigorous environment, especially when you're also playing a sport. University of Chicago, Georgetown, and the ones that I know off the top of my head, these schools have very strong alumni base, and it's because a lot of us in the professional world, and that is beneficial to have in your back pocket when you're going through the same experiences that they went through when they're in their undergraduate years. So that's definitely a huge pro. And tied to that, the third huge pro is just the endless opportunities that you have after to navigate the corporate scene or whichever professional scene you're going into. A lot of these schools have a history of putting tons and tons of people into the management level at these companies and organizations, and so it's very beneficial to have that when you're looking for employment opportunities after someone, and say, hey, I'm a fellow alum of school X. I see that you're also an alum of this school. Would you be willing to spend some time with me and help me navigate this application process? And once again, because of that strong sense of network that exists at these schools, you generally get a favorable response, and that is very helpful when you're trying to navigate the employment scene. So the strong alumni network and the post-graduate opportunities that exist and abound after you've graduated are pretty much endless at the powerhouse academic schools. And that's not to say it doesn't exist at the powerhouse sports schools, but the level of excitement and engagement and continuity that exists with the alumni is different. It's noticeably different. I'm not the only person that says this. Many people have said that. And once again, it goes to the fact that people know how hard it is to get in some of these schools. So because of that, there's a sense of fraternity, and that is very beneficial when you're trying to navigate the professional scene. So those are the three main pros of going to powerhouse academic school. Now, there's some certain schools out there that have an equal balance of both. And just to name a few, there's Stanford University, there's Duke University, there's Wake Forest, University of Texas, University of North Carolina. These schools have a huge reputation of being sports powerhouses while at the same time being academic powerhouses because it's so difficult to get into these schools. Some of the schools that I just named have less than a 10% acceptance rate, yet they play on a national level. Stanford's in a BCS conference, Duke's in a BCS conference, so is UNC. So these are schools that have to get into because people want to have both of those experiences where they're going to a big powerhouse sports school, but they're still getting that same academic rigor and network that you would get at some of the powerhouse academic schools. So if you're interested in some of those schools, I mean, that's a great way to get that balance. A lot of the powerhouse academic schools tend to be smaller institutions. A lot of the powerhouse sports programs tend to be larger institutions. A lot of them are public institutions. And so there is a difference as it relates to the environment and kind of what you experience as you're walking around campus. So those are just some thoughts, things to think about. I know a lot of people are trying to figure out how to make their recruiting or scholarship decision. You know, some of you guys are in a very fortunate situation where you have schools like UCLA and Harvard offering you scholarship opportunities. So definitely be thankful if you are in that position. That's a super blessed position to be in. But this is mainly for those that are just trying to figure out which way they should go, and there are pros and cons to each. I just mainly focused on the pros. Cons are, you know, everyone can say negative things about each one, but I wanted to focus a little bit on the pros and just give you some insight. I had the opportunity to go to both. I went to a large public institution, University of New Mexico, now 30,000 students. Georgetown, after I transferred, when I went to Georgetown, it was about 6,000 students. So it was a very different experience and environment, and I was thinking about postgraduate opportunities and wanting to live on the East Coast. So that's why I ultimately made the transition to Georgetown. But I had fun at both. There are pros and cons to each, but I just wanted to focus a little bit on the positives of each experience, just to kind of give you some things that you're experiencing on the sports side or on the academic side. Please let us know down in the comments. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. Please share with your friends. We really appreciate that. And please